of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society for July 20th, 2023. Greetings to those of you joining us by Zoom and those joining us on Facebook Live. My name is Angela Ski. I am Education Officer of the Genealogy Group, which has been in existence since March 2014. Today's presentation is given by a familiar face. She is usually on this side of the table and introducing the speaker. However, today she is presenting herself. Of course, I'm speaking of no other than Harriet Pierce, who will speak to us on using the Shilstone Memorial Library. Like its parent, the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, the Shilstone Memorial Library will celebrate its 90th year of public service in 2024. During this time, it has hosted patrons from all over the world who are researching Barbadian history, heritage, and genealogy. This talk will focus on the resources and services offered to the family historian by the Shilstone Memorial Library. Harriet Pierce is a library professional with over 30 years experience in the field. She holds a BA honors in history and sociology from the UWI Cave Hill. In 1989, she was awarded an IDRC, that is International Development Research Center of Canada, scholarship to read for the master's degree in library studies at the University of the West Indies, Mona. In 2009, Ms. Pierce graduated from UWI Cave Hill with a degree of Master of Philosophy and History. Harriet spent 14 years in an audiovisual library firm, during which time she was a member of the planning committee for the first Caribbean Archive Information Conference, CABIC, which was held in Jamaica in 2003. In January 2011, she joined the staff of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, where she also functions as a history professional. At the museum, Ms. Pierce and Dr. Patricia Stafford began a campaign to empower persons interested in family history. From a series of basic workshops, the Barbados Genealogy Group was born on March 20th, 2014. The group provides a forum for persons interested in genealogy to share information and resources. In addition to librarianship, Harriet has been involved in radio and television production, having conceptualized and produced the television program Book Talk from 2002 until 2008. This literary program, with its Barbadian and Caribbean focus, was awarded a UNESCO grant in 2006 to produce an interactive program as part of UNESCO's Education for All campaign. The resultant program, which examines literacy, is internationally available through the Commonwealth Broadcasting Association and UNESCO. Ms. Pierce is currently a member of the editorial committee for the Dictionary of Barbadian Biography and had researched and authored 22 essays for the project. She has also contributed several essays to the yet unpublished work, A Guide to Slave Root Sites of the Caribbean, and to the Journal of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society, 2013. I'll just make a few notes of housekeeping before we get started. Please hold your questions until the end of the presentation. You can either type your question in the Q&A or use the raise hand feature at the bottom of the screen and we will unmute you. Enter your comments or greetings in the chat at the bottom of the screen. And so without any further ado, I will turn over to Harriet.
Thank you, Angela. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today in a different capacity. I presented, back in 2014, I presented a similar talk to the group. This was, of course, before Zoom and the recording of our presentations. Since then, new persons have joined, and I have been asked by several persons, what does the museum offer to family history researchers? This presentation is in response to those queries. On May 31st of this year, the Barbados Museum and Historical Society celebrated the 90th anniversary of the passage of the Special Act incorporating the society. On June 23rd of 1933, the first annual general meeting was held, at which the first council was elected. This 11-member council included the society's first honorary librarian, Mr. Edwin Richard Dennis Mulder. The overarching goal of the Founding Fathers was to establish a good reference library, which will cater for the needs of research workers and students that cannot be supplied by the Barbados Public Library. Their words. This role has been refined over time, and in 2004, Council stipulated that the main role of the library was that of a research library in Barbadiana, especially history, natural history, archaeology, and art, with a subsidiary role of support for the museum's core activities. The establishment of the library in 1933 was followed in August of 1935 by the start of the Department of Historical and Genealogical Research under the direction of Mr. Eustace Maxwell Shilstone. Until his retirement, Mr. Shilstone and his team of volunteers received and researched many queries relating to Barbadian families and history. The Barbados Museum and Historical Society is not an official repository for Barbadian church and civil records. That is the role of the Barbados Department of Archives. However, the mandate of the society to collect, document, and conserve evidence of Barbados' cultural, historical, and environmental heritage, and to interpret and present this evidence for all of society, along with its long-standing engagement with family and historical researchers, has allowed it to amass a significant collection of documents relating to Barbadian families. These continue to prove useful for family historians. In addition to the materials under the direct purview of the librarian, clients also have access to original documents such as maps, plans, ledgers, reports, etc., that are managed by the curatorial department. My task today, therefore, is to outline the resources available in the Shilstone Memorial Library that can be used for genealogical research. And let me just give me a chance, let me share my screen. Okay, I hope everyone can see that. For this exercise, I have categorized the materials as follows: family files or family histories, personality files, manuscript resources, periodicals, journals, serials, government documents, electronic sources, published sources, special lists, original documents managed by the curators, online resources, and any other. We will begin with the family files. As I mentioned before, the Barbados Museum and its library has a long history of engagement with persons interested in family history research. Over the years, many researchers have generously donated their research to the library. These gifts may vary from commercially or privately published family histories to loose leaf leaves that are collated in a folder. To date, the holdings include over 350 family files, and these are arranged alphabetically by surname, and they include, as you can see on the screen, Aline, a very common Barbadian surname, Cave, Cox, Phillips, Pilgrim, Williams, Wood, among others. It also includes over 50 commercially or self-published family histories. And these include such names as Rock, Aline again, Echil, Gittins, Mears, and Leacock. The family files include newspaper clippings, correspondence, information on births, deaths, marriages, wills, and family trees. The quantity of the information in these files may vary from folder to folder. However, for example, Aline and Haynes, you may have several folders, but for the Bell, another family name, there may just be one folder with just a few loose leaves. But we all know that the extent of a folder is not the only indicator of the relative value of the file. To facilitate access to this resource, there is a list of the family files available here at the museum. One family resource that merits special mention is that of the Clarks of Barbados. Over a period of about 25 years, Mrs. Mona Watson, nee Farmer of Surrey, England, collected every mention of the Clark name in Barbados. The result was roughly 600 handwritten pages of information, lists of names from baptisms and marriages, family trees, and odd photograph and newspaper clippings. This amazing work was given to the late Joyce Gale to assist family historians. The index of these names, which include about 4,880, is now on a database developed by Mary Gledall. And this is an Excel database. And the resource includes material from the 17th to the 20th century. And it is now in the Shilstone Memorial Library. It's also accessible on www.caribbeanfamilyhistory.org. This is, of course, the site developed by Mary Gledall, the same person who would have developed the database based on the Clark information collected over the years. The personality files. This is a resource that is similar to the family files. While family files are a collection of material on a particular family, the personality file focuses on a single individual. This resource was significantly enhanced to support the Dictionary of Barbadian Biography project. At present, it consists of file folders arranged alphabetically by name and stored in about 6 filing cabinet drawers. Each folder contains information on one individual, which could include newspaper articles, death notices, obituary, funeral booklets, magazine articles, and so on. And this resource includes both current and past personalities. Like the family files, the extent of the information in these folders vary. For example, there is so much information on Rihanna and the Right Excellent Sir Garfield Sobers that they could not be contained in file folders. So we have to place those in boxes. These files have the potential to provide additional information about the life and work of an individual and can enrich the family story beyond names and dates. We will now turn to the manuscript sources that are unique to the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. And the two that we will mention would be the Shilstone notebooks. We've already mentioned the name Eustace Maxwell Shilstone, one of the driving forces behind the establishment of the museum, and who functioned as genealogist, historian, secretary, and general doubts body here at the museum. So it's the Shilstone notebook and the Campbell notebooks. The Shilstone notebooks, as I said, compiled by Eustace Maxwell Shilstone, a lawyer by profession and an antiquarian by nature and practice. He collected information on a variety of Barbadian subjects, including the Quakers, legislative council proceedings, wills and administrations, church history, the railway, vestry minutes, Barbadian doctors and clergy. He also collected information on approximately 67 Barbadian families, and these include Aline, Bailey, Bancroft, Tempro, Thomas, Walron, Walcott, and so on. Much of this information was extracted from records now housed at the Barbados Department of Archives, as well as other sources. To assist the researcher who is interested in this collection, there's an index which tells you in which notebook a particular subject or family name occurs. This collection of approximately 150 notebooks was digitized in 2010 and can now be accessed using a computer in the library. So although digital, at present, it can only be accessed in the library. The other manuscript resource that is very unique to the museum is the Campbell notebooks. This collection of genealogical notes was compiled by Diana Campbell. The notes contained in 4-ring binders and arranged alphabetically by surname were extracted from baptism, marriage, burial records, as well as wills and administrations and powers of attorney from the Barbados Department of Archives. Approximately 200 surnames are represented in this resource. The information ranges from just a few notes for some names to several pages for others. And like the Shilstone notebooks, this collection was also digitized for your convenience. And some of the names include Cox, Pilgrim, Bishop, Hayes, Pickering, and Taylor, to name a few. Here are just a couple of images from the Shilstone and the Campbell notebooks to show what exactly they are. So manuscript, because they're mainly handwritten. So the Shilstone shows you a section of a family tree, a Hayes family tree, while the Cox section is the Cox information from the 1715 census. Let's now turn to serials, periodicals, journals, and pride of place, of course, goes to the Journal of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. The first issue of the journal appeared in November of 1933. So in November of 1923, we would also be celebrating the 90th anniversary of the journal. Published as a quarterly until volume 38, which appeared between 1987 and 1990, the now annual publication is in its 68th volume, which was published in 2022. But how does this journal benefit the family researcher? What can you find? You may find a detailed family history, example for the Lees, Alines, Oxners, Cullimores. You may also find extracts from newspapers, which give notice of baptisms, marriages, deaths, wills, sales of property, obituaries, business advertisements, etc. Some of these newspapers include the Barbadian from 1822 to late 1861, the Barbados Mercury from 1783 to early 1819, the Barbados Globe, an official gazette from about 1850 to 1853, the Barbados Globe, 1862, the Liberal from 1858 to 59, the Barbados Times from 1863, and of course, remember these are not full runs. So we have 1863, 65, 1868, 1870, but these are very useful. You will also find vestry minutes, particularly for St. Michael and St. John. House of Assembly reports compiled from minutes of the House and other sources. Census data from the 1715 census. St. Michael and Christ Church and St. George have been serialized in the journal. You can also find extracts from wills recorded in England between the 17th and 18th century, obituaries, lists such as servants of foreign plantations from Bristol, England to Barbados between 1651 and 1658. These, of course, persons who came here as indentured servants. And you also have biographical entries such as the peason Joseph Nathaniel Walcott, a welterweight champion of the world between 1901 and 1906, written by Sylvan Spooner and carried in the 2022 journal. So how do you access the relevant information? To facilitate navigation of this maze of information, a names index has been compiled. This index gives the name, the family name or personal name, and the volume and page on which the name is mentioned. There are several versions of this index. We have a 3-volume physical one covering volumes 1 to 25. There's an electronic one which takes up from there, going from volume 26 to 47. And there's a 1-volume one that covers volume 30 to 47. So there's some duplication. In addition to the names index, there's also a subject index, which lists all the subjects covered. Like the names index, this resource may refer to a passing reference or a detailed discussion. So you have a bound volume, volume 1, which covers volume 1 to 36. This is one that was developed for sale, but sadly is now out of print. And a spiral bound, which is available in library, which covers volume 1 to 48. And subjects are all arranged alphabetically. Unfortunately, okay, I seem to have lost my place. And okay, I seem to be, okay, let's see. Okay, just give me a minute. Let me find out my space in the slides. You know how it is with technology. Okay. Just give me a minute. I think I'll be there shortly. Right, okay. So we're into the subject index. Unfortunately, these indexes, both the names index and the subject index, are sadly not current. However, for some time now, we have been working here in the library on a name title index. Basically, what we wanted to do is to list every article published in the journal and the name of the author or authors and the volume and number in which it appears, as well as the pages. At this point, I want to acknowledge the work of the librarian who was here before me, Ms. Joan Brathwaite, under whom this work started as a card catalog. I merely continue to list the articles as journals were published and converted the cards into an electronic database with the assistance of volunteers. So what you're seeing on your screen is actually an Excel spreadsheet showing the articles, and these are the volumes 68, the more current volumes. So you have the title of the article, any author, the year in which it was published, the volume. And this is an ongoing job. Let's turn now to another periodical that is very helpful to family historians, the Barbados Almanacs. Almanacs and directories are annual publications that are valuable sources of genealogical information. And this could include civil lists, lists of clergy, lists of professionals, voters lists, plantations by parish. And for plantations by parish, you may not white plantation, because this could include not only information about the plantation, the acreage and so on, the type of technology used, but it could also include the owner, the name of the owner and the manager at the particular time. The library has almanacs between the period 1764 to 1894. Again, these are not a full run, so there are gaps. However, it is a very good representation of the almanacs. Some of these have been digitized for easy access. The other periodical that we want to highlight will be directories and yearbooks. And in the later directories and the Barbados Advocate Yearbook are expanded and more consistent versions of the earlier almanacs. The Advocate Yearbook also includes a who's who section. So here at the museum, we have the Diamond Jubilee directory from 1898, 1899, 1901 to 1908. And we also have the Leverett's directory for 1921. This 21 one is particularly interesting because it includes persons who went off to fight in the war. There's also the Social Directory of 1838, the Advocate Yearbook of 1937, 51, and 64, and the Barbados Business and General Directory of 1887. This is another valuable resource because it includes a names index, which is the names of the professions and the place of residence. So if your ancestor operated a business in Bridgetown around this time, this is a very valuable source. I mentioned the Social Directory of 1838. And for this one, the inclusion of a residential listing in this directory is particularly useful. This section entitled Register is divided into 10 sections according to district. So you have sections A to I, which are mainly St. Michael, Christchurch, while sections J includes the other parishes. So you'll find the name of a person and their actual address. Let me just zoom in that you will see some of the areas. For example, section G, Tweeside Road, Halls Road, Robert Street, Spooners Hill, Green Hill. Section J, you have different parishes, St. Lucy, St. Peter, St. Andrew, St. James. So it can be quite useful. Another important serial is the Barbados Annual Review. This was compiled by Mr. Lloyd Mears during the period 1942 to 1953. This is an annual publication which provided a synopsis of local events from December of one year to November of the next. It carries sections such as education, health, agriculture, sport, personal, and the legislature, which provide general historical information as well as information on persons involved in the respective areas. For the family historian, the publication also carry lists of marriages, some of the marriages and deaths that occurred during the period. So let me just zoom in on this particular slide here. This is actually the marriages and deaths that occurred between 1952, December 1952 to February 1963, as listed in the Barbados annual review for 1952 to 53. One of the things that you may also find is that there are little small potted bios of some persons. And so although it is not a complete list of all the marriages and deaths, it provides helpful information not only for the family historian, but for the biographer. The Barbados Annual Review can be found at the Barbados Department of Archives, the National Library Service, and of course here at the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. I don't think any of the three institutions have a full run, so to get a full run, you have to use all three. Here at the museum, we have 1945 to 46, 47 to 48, 48 to 49, 49 to 50, and 52 to 53. One must never discount the information that can be gleaned from magazines produced by individual schools. Information could include form lists, the date students entered and graduated, faculty, examination results, sporting achievements, extracurricular activities, news of old scholars, and so on. Here at the museum, we have the Harrisonian, from the period 1903 until 1966. It is incomplete. We also have the Combinarian between 1924 and 1974, again incomplete. The Queen's College Annual between 1945 and 1951. The Law School Record between 1918 and 1951. And the Grassfield School Magazine between 1918 and 1920. Here is a shot of the Grassfield School Magazine of 1918. Here where it is giving you births, marriages, and deaths of both past students and faculty. So you see birth, you have marriages, you have deaths, and you also have the school register, September 1918. So you can see that these types of publications can be very, very useful. Let's now turn to government documents, which you have in our collection that may be helpful to family researchers. And I will look mainly at civil lists and the blue books. Civil list is a list of individuals to whom money is paid by the government, typically for a service to the state, persons who are employed by the state or as a pension. Here at the Shilstone Memorial Library, we have both colonial lists as well as some for Barbados. So on the colonial list, we have one for 1913 and we have one for 1938. But what type of information can you find in this colonial list? You have general information about a country, description, industry, population, currency, banking, and education. You also have names of persons paid by the government arranged on the sections. For example, on the judiciary, public market, and so on. And this includes their post and the salary page. And then there's a record of public officers arranged alphabetically at the back of the book. This could include the date of birth, the education, and the offices held. For Barbados civil lists, we also have between 1928 to 1976, again, not a full run. Unlike the colonial list mentioned previously, this resource is limited to Barbados. It, however, carries similar information, names of government employees by department that may include the date the person started work, salary, and in some cases, education. So on my next slide, I'm showing you an image of the civil list for 1936. What I find is that The lists between 1928 and 1938 are particularly helpful because the entry for each officer includes date of birth, the current salary, the position, and a detailed history of the individual's tenure in the civil service. So here on screen, we have a listing for Arnold Milton Josiah Payne from the 1936 civil list. So we have his date of birth, his current position and salary, his allowances. And here then we have a history of his work to date in the civil service, starting with his joining of the service in 1922 as a cadet. Okay, the other government document I mentioned would be the Barbados Blue Book. This is an annual official government publication detailing its business for a particular year. The mainly statistical information covers such areas as revenue and expenditure, legislation, civil establishment, lists of officers, pensions, legislation passed, and so on. The museum has quite a good run of these blue books, although they may need some conservation. We have from 1876 until 1947, with a few gaps in between. In researching this particular paper, I realized that the blue books from 1839 to 1947, when they ceased, are available at the British Online Archives for a fee. So you can actually access them on this particular site. Let's now turn to the electronic resources we have on our collection that you may find helpful. We begin with the Westbury Cemetery records. The library has a collection consisting of burial records for the period of 1877 to 2014, and stillborn burials between 1905 and 2012. Westbury Cemetery was, of course, established in 1876. So what information can you find in these particular entries? The information is carried in an Excel format and consists of over 150,000 records arranged by year and alphabetically by name within a given year. Each entry may include all or some of the following: the name of the person buried, the age, date of burial, address, occupation, the name of the minister, and the place of birth. At present, these records can be accessed from the library, and they may also be viewed at CaribbeanFamilyHistory.org, again, a site managed by and developed by Mary Glidall. So if you have any issues using that site to access the Westbury Cemetery records, you can always give us a call. Another electronic source we have in our collection is the Youth Plantation records, comprising 33 word files of information on Barbadian plantations, compiled by historian Ronnie Hughes. This alphabetically arranged resource covering the period of the 1600s to the 1850s is a valuable source for information on Barbadian plantations, their ownership and acreage. Each entry may include the name of the plantation, the former name and location, dates, names of owners, acreage, and enslaved plantation. So you'll find for each plantation, the information on ownership, on the technology used, and so on is organized by date. This resource was augmented by sets of views. And it's also available as a used carry files at the Department of Archives and in Excel format at the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. To just let you know that Cecil Carey actually also functioned as a library assistant here at the museum after he retired from his teaching job at Harrison College. Additional information on plantations can be gleaned from the Barbados Handbook by Sinclair. And there's one came out in 1912, one in 1913, and one in 1914, as well as the directories and almanacs I mentioned on the periodicals. And of course, the plantation ledgers held here in the curatorial department. And online, you'll find information on Barbadian estates on the legacies of slavery site. This site was, of course, developed to document compensations paid to owners after abolition of the emancipation, but also includes information on the estates. Right, so I mentioned our plantation ledgers here at the museum, which is another important source. And some of the ledgers we have here, including Forster Hall, Westmoreland, Carlton, Colleton, Newcastle, Kingsfield, and so on. These ledgers provide a detailed account of the operation of the respective plantation, revenue and expenses, production, list of the enslaved, and so on. And the Newton ledgers between 1852 and 1872, as well as the Kingsfield between 1843 and 1895, and the Colleton plantation between 1818 and 1857 have all been digitized. So you have the Newton ledgers are available here on the Low Country Digital Library. This is a project which we were able to complete with the assistance of a digital library, the Low Country Digital Library of the College of Charleston. And the Colleton and Haynesfield, both Colleton St. John and Haynesfield St. John, this project on the Barbados Museum online, we were able to complete this with the assistance of the Smithsonian. Okay, we're going to turn now to some of the published sources in our collection that are helpful. So you find we all know of the books by Joanne Sanders, Barbados Records, and she would have, there's several volumes. There are baptisms covering the period 1637 to 1800. Marriages, a 2-volume set that covers the period 1643 to 1800. Wills and administrations covering 3 volumes covering the period 1639 to 1725. What you should know is that some of these, because of the time period in which different parishes kept their records, some of them fall outside of the time frame here. They started after 1800. So there are some gaps in these. This resource is also available on Ancestry.com as a resource called English Settlers in Barbados. Another resource I want to mention is Caribbeana. This is a pan-Caribbean resource compiled and published by Vera Langford Oliver. This was first published as a quarterly journal from 1910 to 1920. And it was reprinted in 8 volumes in 2000 by Jim Lynch. It contains information for nearly all of the West Indian Islands. This information includes transcription of parish registers, wills and deeds, extracts from newspapers, monumental inscriptions, extensive notes on families, and other interesting bits of information such as matriculation records of West Indian students from the University of Glasgow. And this document is available digitally at the Digital Library of the Caribbean. And another publication I want to highlight is the Genealogies of Barbados Families, which was compiled by James Brando. So he used information from Caribbean and from the Journal of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society for this 1983 publication. It's arranged alphabetically from A to Z by surnames, Adams to Yeamans. And the resource included, in addition to information on the particular families, you have several appendices, which will have genealogical notes. There are some New England and Barbadian notes by Moriarty. You have St. Michael Cathedral inscriptions, and you have several lists of Barbados Quakers by Henry J. Cadbury. And this book also includes an extensive index, and it is available on this online as well in a search format. I will also mention Houghton. Houghton's original list, the original list of persons of quality, immigrants, religious exiles, political rebels, serving men sold for a term of years, apprentices, children stolen, maidens pressed, and others who went from Great Britain to the American plantations between 1600 and 1700. This is a classic publication, which came out in about 1874. And it includes quite a lot of information, including the name of the passenger, the age, the point of origin, the ship on which the person sailed, the date of embarkation, the port on which you embarked, the destination, other miscellaneous information such as the tonnage, the name of the captain of the ship. You also have another section looking at tickets granted to immigrants from Barbados to New England, the Carolinas, Virginia, New York, and so on. So you can also track some migration patterns. The full text of Houghton can be accessed from the Library of Congress's ebook site at archive.org. Another companion to Houghton is the omitted chapters from Houghton compiled by Brando. What Brando tried to do is to correct the omissions from Houghton. Houghton did not include the 1679-80 census for St. Philip, St. Joseph, St. Lucy, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Peter, as well as some baptismal burial registers of some parishes, some militia rolls, and various other miscellaneous documents. So Brando set out to correct this omission. And there is an index in this book which provides access to the information. Some other published sources that are important for immigration records would be the books by Coldham, the complete book of immigrants in bondage, more immigrants in bondage, etc. A directory of Scots banished to American plantations, a list of immigrant ministers to America, a list of immigrants from England to America, and the first settlers of South Carolina. This is many of the persons who left Barbados to go to South Carolina to establish plantations there. Another published source, which is important for census information, is the book Barbados in America by David Kent. He, like Brando, tried to correct the omissions of Houghton. So he included the parishes that Houghton omitted from the 1679 census, But the major portion of the book is the 1715 census of the white population in Barbados. As I also mentioned previously, the Barbados Museum and Historical Society Journal also carries census information. All right, another published source would be those on the monumental inscriptions, and there are several. You have Oliver, the monumental inscriptions in the churches and churchyards of Barbados. And this is available in digital form at archive.org, which is again the Library of Congress email site. You have a manuscript resource, which is available here, monumental inscriptions of Barbados collected on the spot by Major Thorne. And this has an index. We also have Shilstone Jewish monumental inscriptions in Barbados. These would be the inscriptions in the Jewish synagogue churchyard. We also have monumental inscriptions of the British West Indies by Captain J.H. Lawrence. And this is also available digitally at the Digital Library of the Caribbean. And Mary Glidall, we have mentioned her several times. She compiled the monumental inscriptions for the Barbados Military Cemetery. So you can also augment your information on burials and monumental inscriptions by using Mary's site, CaribbeanFamilyHistory.org. It has a section on monumental inscriptions. And there's also a continuing project, the Monumental Archive Project, which offers burial and inscription information as well. Another published resource is the Freedmen of Barbados, Names and Notes for Genealogical and Family History Research by Jerome Handler, Ronald Hughes, Melanie Newton, Pedro Welch, and Ernest Wiltshire. This work contains the names of about over 1,800 persons who were identified as freedmen in documentary sources. This category of freedmen would include persons who were born free or were manumitted. And the sources from which the information was extracted include freedmen addresses, memorials and petitions to governor and the legislative bodies between 1799 and 1834, St. Michael Vestry levy books between 1783 and 1810, proceedings from the Court of Common Pleas in St. Michael between 1801 and 1820, and other published sources. And of course, other sources on information on manumissions are also those plantation registers and the vestry minutes. Note that we're on the subject of manumissions. I will also mention a special list which we have here in our collection. This is a transcription of slave manumission records between 1831 and 1834, compiled by Geraldine Lean from RB 726 and RB 727 from the Barbados Department of Archives. We know Geraldine Lean for her work in the manual that all of us use when we are researching Barbadian families. The information is carried in two segments. It is arranged alphabetically by owner or alphabetically by the name of the enslaved. Each entry may contain all or some of the following: a name and description of the owner or the manumitter, name of the owner's representative, the parish, the name assigned, the description of the enslaved person, and the amount paid. Okay, we now turn to the original documents managed by the curatorial department, which are accessible to our researchers. And today I will look mainly at maps. I will also mention again the plantation ledgers. Okay, so the land ownership maps. This constitutes another source of information on the landowning class, functioning much like a census, giving family names, location, and even indications of the extent of the plantation. To find out what is available in terms of maps, a good resource is the Map Collector's Circle, the printed maps of Barbados by Tony Campbell. And I also want to refer you to an earlier presentation of the group in which James Webster told us quite a lot on how you can use maps to research your family history. That presentation is on the museum's YouTube channel, so you can go up there and have a listen. So that is James Webster on maps of Barbados. So I'll just show you a couple of the maps. So the first we have Richard Ligon. This was the first separate map of the island, which was used to illustrate the book, A True and Exact History of the Island of Barbados. And it shows plantations, names of owners, which were then mainly along the west and south coast. And there are also symbols to show the approximate size of the estate and some of what was happening on the island. You're actually seeing camels and so on. Another map is Richard Ford, a Quaker. He produced a land ownership map wherein is a quotation: every parish, plantation, watermill, windmill, cattle mill is described as the name of the present possessor. This first systematic map of the island was the result of a survey by Ford. The other maps, including Mall, 1717, 1729, the Bowen map, 1746. And of course, we've heard a lot of the Mayo map. So there are several maps that you can access to add some depth to your research. Okay, we will look now at our online sources, and this is a bit of a repetition because I would have mentioned these on there earlier. So early in the presentation, I mentioned two online sources as it relates to plantation ledgers. The first one, the Low Country Digital Library, which we digitize with the assistance of the College of Charleston. And that includes mainly post-emancipation documents. I would have given you the years earlier. And we also have the Barbados Museum online, which has the Colleton Plantation, St. John, and Hinsbury Plantation in St. John as well. But in addition, this particular barbnews.pastperfect online also has the St. Michael and St. John vestry minutes. So from St. Michael, we have between 1678 and 1805, and St. John very early from 1649 to 1884. So this is an important resource. If you remember, in May of this year, Dr. Dan Carter made a presentation to the group exploring how vestry minutes can be used for genealogical research. You can go to this presentation on the museum's YouTube channel, so I will not go into any details there. Okay, this review of resources is not exhaustive, since one may extract genealogical information from a variety of publications and resources. And one such would be of Halls, Hills, and Holes, place names of Barbados. And this is quite important when you are looking at the geographical areas in which your ancestors lived. So this is a very important resource. The West India Committee Circular. The museum has that from 1904 to 1958 with some gaps. This is not a very well-used resource, but it's something that one can explore. The Beja magazine. The Belgium published between 1953 and 1988, succeeded by the New Belgium, which was published from 1988 to 1992. The museum also has an index to that collection. Scrapbooks such as the Robert C. Chapman scrapbooks, they cover the period of the 1920s and the 1930s, mainly newspaper clippings, which he would have clipped and pasted in his scrapbooks. Okay, now that you have a better understanding of the holdings of the Shilstone Memorial Library, you will want to know how you can use the collection. The library is open to visitors by appointment, weekdays from 9:30 a.m. until 4:30. This is the period in which we take appointments. I am here earlier. You may contact me by email, so library@barbnews.org.bb, or you may telephone the PBS. I just have an extension, not a direct line. So 538-0201. Visits to the library is one of the benefits of membership of the Barbados Museum and Historical Society. Non-members pay a small fee. Citizens and residents is $20 Barbados per visit. Visitors, it is $20 US. We also receive service requests from persons off island. So you can send your requests by email, letter, telephone, and even on our website, which provides the function in which you can send an email outlining your query, and it will be forwarded to my desk. Okay, I'm going to stop here for now. I know it's been going on for a while, and let you ask any questions or make any comments. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, thank you, Harriet, very much for your very informative presentation. I was really impressed on the wealth of the library, and I've been there several times, but just hearing you go through it again really impressed me with how rich a library it is. I'm going to open the floor for questions. I do see one or two questions there already, but I will just remind you that you can type your questions in the Q&A, or you can use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen, and we will unmute you. Get into the questions. My first question is, and it's by an anonymous attendee, I don't see a name. The person says, I came in late. Are any of the manumission records 1831 to 1834 by Geraldine Lane available online?
No, unfortunately, no. This is a printed document, and it's only available here at the museum. But as I said previously, these records were extracted from records that are at the archives.
Are the printed documents, printed books still available, or is it out of print?
Yes, because it is a homegrown document.
Oh, it's
so
homegrown.
Yes. So
Okay.
we have it here. So if a person wishes to access it, yes, give me a call and make an appointment to come in.
Okay. Our next question is a little longer. Again, it's another anonymous attendee. I don't know if it's the same person. The person says, I started working on my family tree last year, and it has grown to just about 400 persons. Despite the progress made, I was unable to get past my grandparents. I've used the Barbados Archives Department, but my biggest challenge is finding reliable information that can lead me to discover the names and dates of birth of my great-grandparents. Because when I do the searches, I discovered that several persons carried the same names and at that time born around the same time. which makes it difficult to distinguish my ancestors. Can you provide me with a resource or resource persons who can help me in this area? I would like to explore my family tree as far back as it's possible.
Okay, well, I can tell that person that this is a perennial problem. We've all had that. where you find several persons with the same name, sometimes there's no middle name to differentiate. And also, sometimes the names change because they change the names willy-nilly. What I would suggest is that you send me an email, library@barbnews.org.bb, and let me see if I can put you in contact with someone who is one of the researchers who'll be able to offer you some mentorship.
Okay.
Library@barbnews.org.bb. Just letting people know though that I'm actually will be on holiday for the next 2 weeks. So you can send me the email, but you may not receive an answer until mid-August.
Okay, okay. We have another question. Thank you very much, very helpful. How can we access past issues of the journal? I am from Canada.
Oh.
And the person is Julia Scott.
Okay, actually we are working on a project right now, and to digitize the journal is a pet project of mine. So we actually have quite a few digitized. What we have to do now, after we have them digitized, then we have to look at building the necessary structure and how it would be made available and on what terms and conditions. So we are working on it. However, if the person has a particular article that they're interested in, again, make contact with me. And because most of them are now digital, we can forward articles at a fee, of course.
Okay, excellent. I have another question from Anita Bartholomew. This was an excellent presentation. Thank you. It was very helpful and informative. Are you allowed to bring a laptop / pen or paper to the library? Or is it like the archives where you can where they only allow pencil and paper? Also, is it taking of photographs allowed? Thank you.
Okay, of course you can bring your laptop. You can bring your notepad. We only use pencils because in many cases we are dealing with heritage documents. So we don't want to add any additional risk to the document. And there's absolutely no photography. We do offer a photocopying service. And if the document is, because of the nature of the document, it cannot be photographed, it can be considered for digitization. So we offer some digitization on demand. But of course it has to be assessed by case.
Okay, okay. I have another question. Are there, again, anonymous attendee, are there any connections with other historical societies in the region where this data, where persons who have parents from both Barbados and another country in the region can do family searches?
Okay, I think the person, there is, as a museum, we are of course part of a general museum body, which is the Museum Association of the Caribbean. If you're asking if the Genealogy Group itself has ties to any regional genealogy group, no. What I can tell you, we mentioned the name Jim Lynch several times. He actually developed a website called Can Do, and that documents contact information for various archives and various across the Caribbean contact persons. So you can try searching for that website, candoo.org, CANDOO. And because I have used it myself to find contact information for various archives and so on.
Okay, I can't see if there are any hands raised. I don't know if you can from your end, because I'm not seeing all of the participants. So I'm not sure if anybody has raised their hand. So if on your end you can see, just let us know.
From my end, no. I'm not sure if Anastasia can see any.
Yeah, no, none from my end either.
Okay.
Anonymous attendee dropped one more question.
Yes, I just saw that. Anonymous attendee, is this program being streamed on your YouTube channel as well?
Yes, it is actually going live on Facebook simultaneously. And we always, as a matter of course, download and do any small edits and upload our presentations to YouTube. Because basically what we are seeing is that these presentations provide a type of a toolkit for the persons who are doing their family research, that we can send them to these different presentations for a particular reason. So yes, it would be on our YouTube channel.
Okay. I don't see any more questions right at the moment. I'm looking to see whether I had, you may have said this, but I might have missed it. What is the most recent update to the Westbury Cemetery records?
2014. 2014 is the last we have. Now, this resource was developed, Richard Goddard, the late Richard Goddard, would have assisted in actually transcribing these records, and a copy came to us. I'm not sure that he did, because at first it was up to 2012, and then there was a new addition to 2014. I have not seen, since then, Mr. Goddard has died, and I have not seen any updates. I guess it's up to a generous patron, once they have the necessary permissions and so on, to look into transcribing the records.
Just remind me that that particular resource, it says Westbury Cemetery, but does it include the other cemeteries, or is it just the Westbury Cemetery?
Well, what we have here is Westbury Cemetery, but if you go on Caribbean Family History, that includes other cemeteries.
Okay.
Okay, because the Westbury, that database is on Caribbean Family History, but she would have, Mary Glidall, while she was living here in Barbados, would have used volunteers, and she herself went out going to the cemeteries, as well as using registers and so on, to develop what was then called tombstones.bb. I don't know if you remember tombstones.bb. And yes, and we had plantations.bb documenting plantation ownership. And these were then merged into Caribbean Family History. Unfortunately, the plantation section of it was never activated.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, there's another question here. Is there ever access to the library on weekends? Weekdays are hard because of work.
Well, I can tell that person that for a period from 2014 until COVID broke out, using several teams of volunteers, we actually opened the library. We started one Saturday, and then we increased it to 2 Saturdays a month. And really and truly, we had very few people coming. You know, it started out, oh, this is going to be good. But then we had very few people coming. So it is, we have slim resources. I'm the only person who works in the library. We had to extend that using volunteers. What we have done, Up to COVID, the library was only open until 1 o'clock. We now open for the entire day, so give persons a longer period in which they can use the library, but of course they have to book so that we won't have an influx of persons, and we can also manage the other developmental work that has to be done, because it's not only the contact period, it's also the developmental work that has to be done. So what that person can do is, again, send me an email, and let's see what we can work out. library@barbnews.org.bb.
Okay. Donald Hinson, well, this is more of a comment. He said, the last time that I checked, Jim Lynch's Caribbean surname index was offline.
Okay, all right. Well, I have to check again to see what is happening with that. It's not just the index, but the resource page can do. So I will check to see what is happening there.
Okay.
I'll make a note of it.
All right. There's a comment here from Linda. She said, just making a comment, very well done, congratulations. Making a plea for volunteers to assist Harriet in the library.
Thank you, Linda. I assume that's Linda, who was one of the one half of a team that work on Saturdays. And Linda will tell you, it was a bit frustrating, you know, you give up your time and then you hardly see anyone.
Yeah, that perhaps is something that people would have to do by appointment.
Yes.
So you know that the person is coming and so on. So, you know, perhaps as far as Saturdays are concerned, people would have to call and make an appointment, especially for that.
Yeah, but we will look at it. We're not promising anything right now, but we will look at the situation.
Mm-hmm. All right, I don't have any more questions at the moment. I don't know if there are any other comments or anything else that jumps out to you that you would like to comment on.
Yeah, but basically, I just want to encourage persons to come and use the library. A library justifies its existence when persons come and use the collection. It is not just here to look pretty and say, oh, you know, we have this collection and we have that collection. It is there to be used. So please call us or email or whatever method you wish to use, and make an appointment to use the library.
Okay, excellent, excellent. You mentioned quite a few resources that are slowly being digitized. Any major plans for digitization generally?
Well, our major thing right now is the journal.
Yeah.
And this is our 90th year. So I've been spending my time with my volunteers. A volunteer who came out of the Genealogy Group again, digitizing museum-generated documents as part of our, not only to provide information, but hopefully to provide a digital resource sometime in the future for persons who are researching the museum.
Okay. A question from Linda. How do you access the curatorial department to view maps?
Okay, you just come to the library, and what I do, we complete a form, and normally when persons come, and depending on what they're researching, and they may not know of a collection in the curatorial area. So I would recommend, or science persons come wanting a map or something. So however it is, there is a form which they complete, which I submit to the curators, and then they will make contact with the individual and arrange a viewing. The viewing is always in the library, of course.
Okay, so this is a separate department.
Remember, this is a museum, so therefore we have the library section, and then the original documents are managed more as artifacts, you know,
Okay.
So that is part of the museum part of it. The library is more of the society, right?
Mhm.
But the two, it's not a case where the twain don't meet.
Mhm.
Just have to, if it's something that the person knows, I will make the necessary, give them the form, they complete. Or if it's something that they may not know of, I recommend, and then that conversation occurs between the relevant curator. Remember, we have social history curator, we have art. We currently don't have a natural history curator, and we also have a registrar who kind of oversees all of the collections. So yeah, so there's a process.
Again, I suppose this is my question. In terms of those maps, are they indexed? I imagine this would be a major exercise though. Are they indexed in terms of, because a lot of maps had names on them and so on. Was there ever an attempt to index those maps in relation to the names and so on the maps?
To my knowledge, no. No. That is an additional function and maybe a project.
A project.
Right now, yes. The kind of information that you will want would be the producer of the map, the year in which it was produced, any bibliographic, cartographic details about the map. But the details on the map, for example, I show you the legal map, which showed the names along the South Coast and the West Coast. I don't think anyone here has ever been in and documented, indexed every name and so on.
Yeah, that would ideally be a project, but because the maps carry the names of people who own the properties, perhaps that is something you can throw out there if anybody wants to do a project to index the names of the owners and so on, because that would certainly be a very useful thing for the map.
Yeah, it does. Yes, yes. I made a note of it.
Okay.
Yes.
We have another question. Anonymous attendee again. I'm not sure if this is the same anonymous attendee or another one. I'm currently overseas, but I will be making an appointment when I return to Barbados to access the library. Thanks a lot for this informative presentation. So that was a comment.
Thank you, anonymous attendee. But even although you're overseas, you can still drop me an email. Let me know what you're researching, and we may be able to still provide some assistance. You don't have to wait until you arrive in Barbados.
Okay, excellent. All right. I don't have any more questions at the moment. I'm still, as I said, still not seeing any hands, but I can't see the whole. I see a lot of names of old friends, but I'm not seeing any hands raised at the moment. Okay, I don't know if we have exhausted the discussion. I don't know, Harriet, if you think that we have exhausted the discussion and we can.
I think so. If anyone has any follow-up questions, feel free to shoot me an email, library@barbmuse.org.bb. And just remember that you may not receive an answer until mid-August. Since you're trying to, when you're going on holiday, there's lots of stuff to push forward. So yeah, but feel free to send me an email, and thank you so much for your attention and for the questions.
Okay, all right, and perhaps what we can do is wrap up here. Harriet, as I said, I definitely have to thank you for the informative presentation. I know it's the second time that you have done it, but I think it might have been because we would not have had it documented, so to speak, the first time you did it. So it is very useful that it is now documented so that persons can come back at a later date and look at it. there.
Angela, before we go, can I just, there's someone in the chat who's asking again if it will be available on YouTube. So yes, I want to remind you that as soon as Anastasia, gets a chance, it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. We just have to maybe do any little tightening as editing, and it will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And she will of course send me a link, which I will, as usual, send to the group.
Okay, I had not been seeing the persons on the chat. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Okay, thank you for a very informative talk. That was one person, they asked about the recording. Another great presentation. So glad I tuned in. Thanks for it. They're on Facebook, and another thanks. Thanks so very much. So I think that we have definitely exhausted the discussion. So Harriet, again, let me thank you for the very interesting presentation. And I want to thank all the persons who took the time to attend and joining us both on Zoom and Facebook. As Harriet said, remember that the presentations are available on the museum's YouTube channel, so you can go back and get them at your leisure. Again, also, as Harriet said, if you have any additional questions, just email them to her at library@barbmuse.org. Just a little note, the next meeting is scheduled for September the 21st. It is to be presented by Robert Bobby Morris, who will speak on hurricanes and other disasters, documentary heritage and research. And I'm sure that is going to be very interesting and topical, considering the particular time of year. So we will look for you at that time. So once again, let me thank everybody for attending and wish you all a good evening.
Hi, Harriet. One more question in the Q&A box.
Oh, okay.
Somebody came in right at the end.
Okay.
Right on the end. Or how can one become a member of the Genealogy Group?
Okay. Basically, you become a member of the society. Membership of the Genealogy Group is one of the benefits of being a member of the society. If you are local, that annual membership is, I think, $91, and that actually gives you not only membership of the Genealogy Group and the History Group, but our annual journal, percentage in the shop, and so on. And you can just come in to our bookshop and take a membership. If you're overseas, send me an email and I will put you in contact with the person who handles membership, and they will sort you out. So I've said membership of the museum and not membership of the Genealogy Group by itself.
Okay, excellent. Sort of any more offerings, anybody else who wants to get in? As they say, going, gone. All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And as I said, take a look at the presentation on the YouTube channel, and send Harriet an email if you wish any more information. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela.
Okay.
Everyone.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.